You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 177, Child in Time Over the Years. And coming to you live from Nate's Soup Kitchen in the suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the suburbs of Providence, I'm your co-host, John Big Book of British Smiles Matola.
That's right. Look at those chompers.
Actually, these are pretty nice.
Yeah. Fresh back from the dentist.
Yep. I mean, I was talking to you last night about how I dread the dentist, but actually wasn't that bad of a visit today. So
good. No cavities.
No cavities, no poking and prodding. I'm sure I've talked about the dentist and how much I dislike going to the dentist and our time of being of having this show, but it's generally because my teeth are sensitive where my crown is, and so I don't like when they blow cold air and spray cold water and poke around in there and everything. It's very like the teeth in the mouth are like there are a lot of nerves, so it's just like the thought of like them hitting the wrong one just sends like me through the roof. It's like, so I always get anxiety.
Yeah, I don't love the cold air that they blow. It's not a favorite with me.
But I mean, it makes me think of because we were texting with Rich about it earlier, and he brought up the Simpsons episode with the dentist, the Big Book of British Smiles from what was that guy, the dentist? It was like a really early season. It was like painless dentistry was the name of the place. And he's just like, every time I like go in the dentist office, I think of him. He's like, let me show you some of the tools we'll be using. This is the scraper. This is the poker. This is the gouger. It's like, Jesus Christ. He goes, now hold still while I gas you. It's like none of this helps.
Have you ever had the gas? I've never had the gas at the dentist. I've only seen it as like a plot device in sitcoms and things.
Yeah, no, I've had the Novocaine and sure. way long ago, like 30 years ago when I had my wisdom teeth out, I was put under, I can't remember if it was gas or not, but no, they never put the thing over me, and I've been like, cackling while they're working on my teeth.
Yeah. Classic.
But anyway, what's oh yeah, that's right. What's going on with your soup kitchen? You just made some soup?
Yeah, I just made some soup. I made some chicken noodle soup with had some frozen chicken bones and vegetable ends and stuff. Made a big pot of stock, made some chicken soup. Homemade chicken noodle soup. Feeling ready to go. Feeling ready to talk about Child in Time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, ready to rock it. But hey, if you want to support our show, there's a number of ways you can do it. One is you can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. 2 is you can buy some merch from our Etsy store. We've got shirts and mugs available. You can also become a patron on Patreon or on PayPal for as little as $1 a month. Links are in the show notes. It helps support the show. It helps pay for our bills. It helps buy new albums to review. It helps do all that sort of stuff. So really appreciate everyone that donates to the show. And speaking of which, a big thanks to our executive level patrons coming in at the $25 Uncommon Man tier. We have Ovis Nakvi and Purple Maniac. At the $20 What's Going On Here tier, we have Richard Fusey. At the £10 tier, Dr. Jill Brees. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Clay Wambacher, Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Alan Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and Mikkel Steen. And at the $10 Someone Came tier, Ryan M., Jeff Bryce, Victor Campos, Better Call Saul Evans, Kev Roberts, and his wonderful children, Matthew, Gareth, and Sarah. Thank you so much for your generous support of the Deep Purple Podcast. We appreciate it, and we could not and would not do it without you. And hey, speaking of Patreons, there's a few other shows out there that might have Patreons out there, and one I'm actually talking to with this morning about setting one up. But at the deepdivepodcastnetwork.com, we've got a number of different shows about all sorts of bands: a Sabbath Bloody podcast, Skinnerd Reconsidered, our show, T-Bone's Prime Cuts, in the Lap of the Pods, the Magicians podcast, Hawk Binge, Maiden A to Z, Diary of the Madmen, Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers podcast, Metal Gods podcast, The Podcast Will Rock, Backtracks, Aerosmith Revisited, So Far So Pod So What, Tom Petty Project, all these great shows. Check them out if you are interested in those bands, or even if you're not, because they're great guys. All right, so here we go. Child in Time. So we've talked about this a bunch of times on the show. We probably had it in 6 or 7 different episodes at least, played different versions of it and talked about it. But I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of go through it throughout the years and see how it's changed. Hear some official releases. We're not going to listen to like 20 straight versions of it. Well, there's a couple I think we should listen to the whole way, but to bookend the episode. But I think for the most part, just maybe cut in a little bit of a sample of each one, to see how it's kind of evolved over the years. And do you have like a memory of what your like real first, I guess, interaction with the song was?
I mean, I don't have a distinct memory of it, but I mean, I do know that it was, I was obviously on that, the Deepest Purple compilation, which was my first Deep Purple album. So, of course, like everything on there, like if I can remember right, that first side was all like classic Mark II. You had, I think it opened up with, Speed King, and that was my introduction to Deep Purple. So I mean, what a great introduction too. So, but hearing Child in Time, I mean, even then, I mean, I knew that it was just a wild song, like an epic song to that would, in my opinion, would rivals like Stairway to Heaven, with its epic nature, just the dynamics of the song, like Gillan's vocals, which are obviously like that, the whole chorus is just him doing just vocal gymnastics. I mean, I've never heard anything like it. So, that's always been just a standout, like to me, like no other song is quite like it, by anybody.
Yeah, for sure. I think my my earliest, I think, I can't remember if I heard it. I must have heard it on In Rock first, because I know, like I said, Paul had those early albums and we would listen to them all the time. But other than that, I think the only the time that the only time that I could really think of hearing it, where that it really stuck out to me, was during the Denmark show, and seeing that live and watching that, which at the time I think was a bootleg VHS that we'd gotten, or that you'd gotten at some record show.
Right.
And that's when it really kind of stuck out to me. And like I always liked the version on In Rock, but to me, this is, even though I'm not like the biggest live music guy or live music collector, this is a song that just really comes to life live. And hearing how they play it live is just like a really huge part of it for me. So yeah, I think that's probably my main memory of the song, is being in your basement, hearing that rendition of it, and just really just kind of being blown away by just how amazing it was. But yeah, so I think just kind of getting a little bit into the history here. So the song was the first, and well, let me preface this by saying, this might not be 100% accurate, but from all of the research that I've done and people I've talked to and websites I've checked, it seems like this song was performed live for the first time on August 23rd, 1969 at the Paradiso in Amsterdam. And that was, there's a great article about it on the Highway Star. by Tron de J. Strom, who hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who's a great guy, and listens to the show and always sends in some really great feedback. But he wrote a great write-up of this probably 25, 30 years ago from the Highway Star. That's on there to check out and see kind of the history of it. It also goes into Roger Glover's diary at the time. So there's like a link there where he talks about what was going on at the time. And he says, on the 22nd, they flew to Brussels. On the 23rd, says, drove to Rotterdam. Club closed. Instead, drove to Amsterdam and worked at the Paradiso. Fantastic club. Legal smokes. Worked with some bands. Great job. Felt very good. Stayed in Rotterdam. So that's the day they perform it live for the first time. And then on the 24th, on Sunday, they played the Paradiso again. It says, moved to a hotel in Amsterdam. Another great job. Humble pie, not very good. Brian Auger was fantastic. Gary Boyle on the lead got quite high. Quotes. So those are his two brief job diary entries from those days, which is really cool. So I'll put the link in the show notes of the whole diary in there. It's really, really kind of interesting to read. But so the show on the 23rd, there's no recording of that show, but the following night when they played, this would have been the second time they'd ever performed Child in Time live. They played it again at the Paradiso, and there is a bootleg of that. So I thought it would be interesting if we checked it out and listened to the first time ever recorded Child in Time by Deep Purple. Let's check it out.
Hello.
Might have to adjust the volume a little bit.
Deep Purple. It's nice to be here. How you doing, man? Nice.
He says like we're Deep Purple or we're supposed to be, I think he says.
We're gonna do a thing which we wrote now. It's called Child in Time. It's a very sad story.
Had it quite perfected there. Stage banter. It's got a very upbeat, slightly different feel for them.
Yeah, it does kind of sound a little upbeat.
And just what John Lord's doing on the keyboards. It's we know it's that song from It's a Beautiful Day that they kind of ripped off for this little thing. So they're doing it actually sounds more like that original song. His microphone wasn't plugged in for that first line.
Line that's drawn between good and bad. See the blind man.
I mean, it's a pretty good recording from 1969.
Yeah, for a bootleg, yeah. We ever talked about where he came up with the idea of just doing that over this part?
The ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, because it's a really wild idea if you think about it.
And it kind of makes it's what if you think about the song, you think of that, right? I mean,
yeah, obviously.
And I think that's what makes the song so epic is it's this really gentle beginning and then this reaching this peak and this crescendo, and then going into the instrumental part, and then coming back down out of it. That's the whole song right there. So they would have only been playing live together for like 5 weeks at this point. You know, Gillan and Glover joined, and officially played their first gig with them July 10th, I think. It's crazy. And it's worth noting that we are listening to this on August 24th, 53 years to the day after it was performed.
Wow.
Just one of those weird, happy coincidences. Get a little bit of a Book of Taliesin moment there at the beginning of the solo.
I'll forgive it. Yeah, I mean, you could tell some of the parts are a little bit different. They hadn't quite worked it out to what it was going to be on the album yet.
Right, who knows how many times, like I know they would jam on that little dun 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 because they kind of took that from Beautiful Day. So who knows, they'd only been jamming on this for maybe a week or two at this point. Kind of looks like feels like he's messing around with his pickup selector there, which I usually used to like to keep all the way up or all the way down, depending on which way you look at it. I think they worked out exactly who was going to solo next.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more jammy, like almost like they were trying to figure it out.
Right.
Which they probably were at this point.
If you've been in a band and you've played live before, you've kind of been through this progression many times where you're learning what works, what doesn't, playing off of each other. Classic Ritchie-isms there. There he goes, wringing that neck. Love to see it, folks.
I'm really glad he didn't do this in the studio version. A lot more composed.
Yeah. I don't think that would fly.
Well, I mean, because you're obviously hearing a kind of transition between Mark 1 and Mark 2. So there's still some of that Mark 1 left over.
Yep.
Just like the most evident in Ritchie's playing. You know what I mean? Like you don't hear like John Lord and be like, oh, it sounds like Mark 1 John Lord. Like he always just kind of sounded the same.
that's a good point. Well, Ritchie was always like evolving and pushing himself towards these new limits. And that might be some flub notes here and there. It might be him rubbing the guitar in his ass. It might be stepping on it on the stage, but that's what makes him so great. He's always looking for something new, different sound.
It's always really interesting too to think about like how like Ritchie or Ian Gillan were like a few years before they were doing this kind of like even before Deep Purple, this just kind of bland, like, just fitting in with the 60s music. It's like, how did Ritchie discover, like, when was the moment he discovered that he would start like playing like wild? Like, when did Ian realize that he could start like screaming like that and hitting those high notes? Because the music they were playing before obviously never supported that. Like, I feel like they just kind of discovered that all on their own.
And all at the same time.
Which is pretty wild to think about, because that Gillan wasn't singing in like these 60s pop bands, like hitting those like soaring high notes like he wound up doing like in his even here.
No, that's a great point. He's not doing this in episode 6.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering when he was like, let me try this. Ah! But interesting to think about. Be like really great to be in their heads back then and wonder the thought process. Yeah, it's really raw.
That little fill I don't even know if you call it fill, but that little groove change that Ian Paice throws in there is just awesome. Got the ending, and you hear a few different endings over the years that we'll get into.
I mean, sounds close to what it became, but
yeah, pretty close.
Not quite all the way there yet.
A little bit of that, like, kind of reaching that crescendo.
You didn't have Gillan screaming and talking about a band who's 3 feet tall and all that other baloney. All that other hippie baloney.
All that other baloney. Well, it's like no no applause. Was there anyone there at that party?
Like back then they were just like, I guess. Like,
Well,
what
you
what
gotta
the
figure.
hell was that?
I mean, at that point, there'd be a lot of people potentially in the audience who didn't know, just going, "Oh, I'm going to see live music. Who knows what it's going to be?"
Right.
And yeah, you might not. You might be expecting some sort of, or as we've talked about before, if you were a big fan of Mark One, and they start getting into some of this Mark Two stuff, while obviously the Mark II stuff was wildly beyond the success level of Mark One, in the long run, I'm sure there were a few people, more than a few people, that were like, what is this? What's this new sound they're doing? This isn't for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking to hear something a little bit more straightforward.
I thought we were coming here to hear River Deep Mountain High, honey.
Oh God, which is even longer than that.
Or like
It's like what, 15 minutes long or something. It just never ends.
their version of Help by those nice young men, the Beatles.
Those nice young gentlemen, the Beatles.
Or like, what's that Joe South song that there was a big hit? Sugar Plum. Um,
Is he referring to his wife as Sugar Plum?
I
Or
guess.
date?
Uh,
Sugar Plum. Well, these are Dutch folks though, so I don't know if sugar plum translates, but
mm.
yeah, I mean, a really solid performance, really good. They're still working a few parts out, but it's pretty interesting. Pretty
You can
interesting.
tell it's pretty raw, pretty real.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so yeah, the next time that well, I shouldn't say the next time. So maybe now is a good chance to go over some of the specifics. So looking at this song over the years, I want to take a guess as to how many times they performed this live in the history of the band.
I wouldn't even be able to make a guess.
No guess?
200.
Well, you're about halfway there.
400.
Well, very close. 399 times, according to setlist.fm.
It's not a
So
lot.
yeah, obviously a number of performances. So they played it 4 times in 1969. The peak of their playing of it was in 1970, which makes sense because they were touring with In Rock and getting ready to tour with In Rock. They played it 82 times. And we're going to take you. There was obviously some large stretches where they didn't play it at all. And we'll get to that later, but 399 times. It's a lot of live performances of Child in Time. So talking about notable performances, the next really kind of notable performance, and the sad part about this is that there's no video, because it would be a really, really cool video to have. But the next instance of this is at the concerto. So they played a small set before they did the full concerto, and this was one of them. So take a little snippet from that. Oops, nope, that's the one that we just listened to. Here's the concerto. So obviously, this was just about a month to the day later. So they'd been playing it for a full month at this point. And obviously pretty good acoustics. They were set up for recording, and they're playing at the Albert Hall. This little bend
I like
in from
that.
Ritchie.
I like that.
Sweet child in time.
And as we've talked about, and is common knowledge, this song was what Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice heard him singing and decided with those screams like, oh, this is our Jesus here.
Shooting at the world.
Obviously he goes completely nuts with the screams on Jesus Christ Superstar, which is
Yeah.
what makes it so great.
taking toll. If you've been bad, Lord, I bet you have, and you've not been hit by flying lead, you'd better close your eyes, oh Lord, bow your head, wait for the ricochet.
So just let me listen to the little warm up here, but a little bit obviously better sound quality.
Yeah, the sound quality is way better. I mean, it's not a bootleg, so.
I wanna hear you sing.
So there you go. A little bit of a taste of Child in Time there, live at the concerto.
Sounds
So
like
I
it's a
almost-
little more pulled together at that point.
But I almost wonder if, like, at this point, is John Lord like even able to concentrate? You know, you've got the concerto coming up, and you know all the history behind that, and how disjointed it was, and how stressful that must have been, having that looming over your head. Like I don't even know if I would be able to do the set list. I'd just be like, just get through this. Like I just want it to be over with. But if you'd played it after playing the concerto, then you'd just be
Yeah.
like, you'd probably have this freedom to. Oh, I mean, it doesn't show in the performance. They sound great.
Yeah.
They put in a great performance. But yeah, I would be losing I'm like nervous just thinking about it, even not being there, having it be over 50 years ago and knowing how it turns out. It's too much for me to bear. The next one, and this was a interesting one, because you've seen this a million times, I've seen this a million times. This is and I actually, even though we've seen it a million times, I was like, I don't know 100% where this is from. So I asked some smart folks to kind of a little bit about this one, like, hey, where does this come from? So I'm going to put it on. We've seen it, probably most recently we've seen it with when your mom was on the show. We played this for her, which is in my mind maybe one of the best performances of it. And it's it would be from the well first of all, there's the album version, right? So I mean, we all know this one. Very this is the one that everyone kind of knows from the album, and probably one that I've heard more than any other version. Although the next one that I'm was warming up for is probably gonna be the next closest.
Right.
So this is obviously going to be very polished. It's the album recording, and it sounds great. So, but we don't need to go too much into that one. We've heard it a million times. But the one I was talking about was this live TV performance, which again, we have seen before.
It was a good one.
Where the heck is it? Why can't I find it? Oh, you know why? Because I left it in the Mother's Day folder. Let's go back to Mother's Day. So yeah, so we played this for your mom for Mother's Day because you determined that she would like the song. You think that she would like this this version of the song, and we played it for her, and indeed she did, and she had some great insight, and here we go.
Yeah, she introduced us to the term whistle voice.
Whistle voice. That's right. Yes, I'll never forget. So I asked around. Duncan Leask actually says, this was from, says back in the day in the UK, you had the BBC 1 and 2 and the ITV network, which was a massive of regional TV stations that made up programming for the Channel 3 ITV station. Granada were one of the biggest studios, being responsible for the legend on its own lunchtime that Coronation Street is. Some of the programming would be national and some just to the Granada network area. Up in Scotland, I doubt we would ever have seen this being replaced with something that wouldn't look out of place on a tin of shortbread. So this was, according to the experts, performed on July 14th, 1970. So just after the album was released, and it was aired on the 21st of August, 1970. And then I have it on good faith that Jerry Bloom says that George Best was in the audience, but that probably won't mean anything to North American listeners, saying he was a famous football player. Or what we in America call soccer. But this is a it's a great performance because it's filmed very interestingly, and you get this little section right here, which is great. Ian makes a lunge for the camera.
Why was that dick getting so close to him for?
I think that's why
he's trying to perform.
He didn't try that
like
with Ritchie.
Right up in his grill.
But it's a great performance.
Yeah. He's throwing those little things in at this point.
What was that one? What did he say? I need a beat.
We live.
I love it. I just noticed those little kids sitting behind Roger.
Yeah. And all the kids in the audience are very, very kind of low key.
But I mean, I'm seeing like, imagine being like those kids that are 10 or like, you know, the ones that look like they're around the same age as like, you know, Gillan in the band, or, you know, maybe even like 5 years younger. And like, just imagine like now you'd be like, yeah, I was at that.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be just like incredible, right? Oh yeah. I was at that like legendary performance of Child in Time.
Oof. But that's that's another good one. You know, that was one of the most pulled together versions. Like we're already seeing how it's come together so quickly.
And I think the interesting part about this one is I don't remember the first time that I ever saw this, but it really kind of gained popularity in the era of social media. And this is one of those ones that I've just seen pop up all the time. You know, you go on Facebook and it just starts, it's like, oh, you've typed about Deep Purple before, boom, you want to see this video, and just throws it at you. And I feel like I've seen it like 100 times, just because it's one of those ones. It starts off, you just see John Lord's hands go bump, bump, bump right from the second the video starts. And it's easy to just be like, oh my God, it's 5 minutes later. I didn't realize I've just been watching that video for 5 minutes. And I'm only halfway through. But it's one of those like kind of impossible to ignore videos. Like anytime I see it start up, I'm like, oh man, I got things to do, but I really want to watch this again.
It's true.
How they get you with this, you know, especially the shitty way they run Facebook and stuff these days. It's just
that's how they get you.
Endlessly throwing you crappy ads for things. So yeah, so that's an interesting, I think, a notable performance right there. That's worth mentioning. There's a few other, obviously. There's this one really bears mentioning because this is live in Stockholm. I think it's worth mentioning because it was released as part of the Overseas Live series, and I think it's there might be other longer versions out there, but this is one of the most epically long versions of the song. So here it is, live in Stockholm. This is November 12th, 1970, so later that same year. So this one's almost 20 minutes long.
Oof.
So now they're getting the claps of recognition, like, oh yes, we bought in rock, we know this one.
Oh yes, we bought in rock.
We bought in rock, we know this one. So this one obviously has got a very long instrumental segment, but let's skip a little bit ahead because we've heard the opening.
Hey, that's another great thing about this song is that it's got that structure on both ends.
Yep.
And it's so dynamic. And this middle section could literally go anywhere. It could be 13 minutes long, it could be 20 minutes long.
And I think like John Lord, like, plays around a little bit with the in the beginning, his little fills he does at the very beginning of the song.
Mm-hmm.
He'll play around with that. He'll make it a little more jazzy at times. He'll go discordant sometimes. Like at first when we heard it at Paradiso, he almost made it sound a little peppy, like a little happy.
Yeah.
But then you've got kind of this part right here in the instrumental that stays. Ritchie will usually throw that little flourish in pretty often. But yeah, the middle jam is open to a lot of interpretation, and then the ending changes a lot over the years. But it gives Ritchie a lot of room to solo for a long, long time. Let's check out the ending of the song. See how they end it. Thank you. Oh, I think I already ended it.
Whoops.
A couple years later, maybe turn the ideas of this into what they end up doing with space trucking at the end of shows. Although this wasn't really at the end of the show. This was only they usually put this one kind of in the beginning or the middle of the set.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of a cool version there. Then we have something that we've referenced before, again, many times. It comes up all the time, came up at the very beginning of this show, and that is the Live in Denmark. So
you know it, you love it.
You know it, you love it. It's Live in Denmark. If I can find it here. Here it is. So another great, this was for the long time my favorite performance of the song. We'll again skip ahead to the. So here we've got a very Ritchie goes into this
like a mock cello type of solo.
No, actually, I skipped way too far ahead. I'm in the wrong song.
Oh. I was gonna say I don't remember that being there.
So this is the middle jam here. I skipped way ahead to the end of the concert. And now we've got Gillan's on the bongos. Or congas, I should say. Roger was in the last video playing his Fender, but now he's playing his Rickenbacker. now you've got the. Let's check out a Lord organ solo for a little bit. Up close and personal with the maraca. I'll have to do a whole episode on the evolution of Gillan's conga playing during the, like, when did it stop and when did it end? Jammy throws in there. It almost like comes up with a new riff and a new song in the middle of this one. Unbelievable. So, here we go. Get in the head here. So now they're back. Gillan's wiping the sweat off of his face. The shattered remnants of conga skins all over his face. So anyway, that's I think a good representation of what that that particular performance is like. So we're skipped ahead. We're in 1972 now. Again, we're going to go pretty quick now, but one other memorable or notable performance, obviously, is going to be this one, which is a little album you might have heard of. This was August 16th, 1972, made in Japan. So here we go again.
This one sounds pretty close to the album intro.
Yep. And you've got this one would have just been a few months, five months or so after the Copenhagen show. But this one I don't think we need to linger on for too long, because like I said, we've everybody's heard this. Anytime Made in Japan gets talked about anywhere on social media, the first 10 comments are like, greatest live album ever made, which is not false, but it's also doesn't bear a ton of revisiting at this point. So yeah, then
we know.
Fast forward ahead about a little less than a year later, and we get this, which is a little bit of a taste of the final Mark II performance, also again in Osaka. The final Mark II performance before Gillan leaves the band. So this one, I think we're going to pick up at.
There's one child in time. There's one.
And the crowd goes crazy.
Like it's never been done before.
Has a little bit of a sprightly intro by John Lord. I don't know if they're tuning or what's going on, but here we skip ahead to this is the ending of the song here from the final performance in 73.
Oof. Yeah, he's really belting it out on this one.
Yeah. This is at the end of a long tour, too.
But I mean, you can tell it's a lot more raspy and angsty than the other ones, because he was like He sounds like he's really aggressively screaming this, which is not bad. It's just, it's different than, like, he's really into it.
And you probably the emotions of the day and the emotions of the moment of being like, well, this might be the last time I ever perform this song. So they're kind of keeping true to the album ending right here. This part's a little different.
Gillan remains quiet. He wasn't letting loose during the build-up.
Yeah. Usually he's like moaning and groaning.
Moaning and groaning.
And he's like, oh! He's like, who is my mother? Oh, where is my? Like he's always like doing that sort of stuff. All right, so that's it for 1973. So what comes next, John? What's the next iteration of Child in Time that you can think of?
Was the Ian Gillan solo album?
Hey-o!
Hi-oh! See, I know it.
So now this one is, we covered this years ago on our episode on the Child in Time album by Ian Gillan Band, but talk about out of left field, and never really does anything quite like this again with this song that I'm aware of.
Oh, it's a fantastic version too.
It's a little shorter and it's very different. It's completely different. So
that's why I liked it.
Yeah, and I think I'll have links to all of this stuff in the show notes. So all the versions of these songs, if you want to check them out for yourself. Like I said, we're just playing snippets, but this is one that's well worth listening to from start to finish. Just because if you haven't heard it, you've never heard Child in Time like this before. And I could imagine that there's a lot of people that hate it for that reason too. It's not what they expected.
I have nothing wrong with this version at all. I mean, I like how, he kind of changed it around, but it still has the dynamics and the emotion. But maybe at the time too, I mean, I enjoyed it because it's such a great song and he did a different take on it.
The unmistakable Mark Nassif percussion and drums all over the place. Just that trademark of the Ian Gillan Band. It almost has like the feeling of like a remix, like they took his vocals, because he's singing it the same.
Yeah.
But the instrumentation is completely different. So it almost sounds like they just took the vocal track and put it over something else. But as we talked about before, Gillan gave the band a lot of creative freedom to just kind of basically do whatever they want. And this is a prime example of that. It's like it's already a very chilling song, and this one's even more so.
Yeah, I just really love this version. And I don't know, maybe it's because it's done a little differently, but it's not a cover version because you have the voice of Child in Time singing it. You have Gillan singing it.
Right.
So that kind of lends a little bit more credibility to it. And I like the fact that it's shorter. He doesn't go into like doing the repetitive like vocalizing in the chorus. He goes right to the guitar solo before hitting that high part. He kind of is like more sparing with it, which I think is kind of another cool change.
Yeah, and you've got this really mellow, flangy, delayed guitar solo playing super mellow over it. It's just a great vibe to it.
Yeah, I mean, instead of it being really as dynamic as the original, it just keeps this really kind of like this really like mellow vibe to it, which is really nice. It's hard not to want to listen to the whole thing.
Well, we can listen to the whole thing. This is our show. We can do it over the hell we want.
Oh yeah, let it go.
It's the shortest one we're gonna listen to, so why not?
True.
And it's funny. It's only 7.5 minutes, but in like Ian Gillan band fashion, there's like a full minute of just basically a little air or noise before the song even starts to set that like, you know, coming in off the previous song and set that little like atmosphere. Really bummed that we never got to hear that version that Ray Fennick said he did with Child in Time going into this time around. Like I really love to hear that. And I tried looking to see if the folks from his band are still on Facebook, but it didn't look like they were. So if anybody has a copy of that, I'd love to hear it.
I think we talked about that when we were talking about versions of this song. Is that I think I've heard like anybody cover this song.
I've seen it a few times, but man, it's a tough song to cover.
And I mean, I'll still lament the fact that like Mark 3 and 4 didn't do this with Hughes singing it.
Yeah, they could have even. And I wonder if they ever tried it. I think we've talked about this before, but if they ever tried it, or like have Coverdale sing the mellow part and then have Hughes do the screams, you know, like it could have worked really well.
Oh God! And I mean, instead of doing Smoke on the Water and Space Truckin', like I would have taken this any day of the week with those two guys doing that. I mean, you got to think that they may have floated the idea and just been like, I don't know, nah, we want to. My guess is they probably would have been like, nah, we want to do all of our cool new songs that we're coming up with.
Yeah, but they still did those other songs. But I think the difference was like Highway Star. Like this wasn't.
They had to though.
It's like a band. It's a fan hit. Fans love it, but it's not a radio hit. So they had to play like Smoke on the Water. And you know, people were like, oh, we're going to see Deep Purple. They're gonna have to play Smoke on the Water, Highway Star.
Right. And I mean, I know that like Hughes has always been passionate about his time in the band. Although they like, I don't think I've ever heard him be disparaging about any of the pre, him material and him in Coverdale material. But
no, I think the only thing that he said about it is it just didn't feel comfortable. Like they didn't.
Right.
He wasn't like, oh, he wasn't coming at it like JLT. I'm not singing other people's track. Whereas Hughes is more like, you know,
it just not like that.
It didn't connect with him. It didn't like, they didn't feel entirely comfortable playing it, which is understandable.
But I mean, you know, you could hear him doing, you better close your eyes.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Or yeah, maybe they could have even, I mean, I guess the only thing is they could have switched off verses or done the beginning and the end, but Coverdale wouldn't be able to hit those notes.
No.
Coverdale could have given such a good soulful performance of the intro vocals that I think it would have sounded so cool. And then to have Hughes come in, or he could have just done like like on a lower octave and had Hughes go up above. And of course it wouldn't have sounded anything like the Gillan version, but I think it could have been something really special and cool in its own. But
they could have done a damn funky version of it.
And in the middle, they just go into like a getting tighter type. That would be great.
Then so now all the Mark I fans are gone because they lost him to Mark II. All the Mark II fans are standing there going, "All right, get your coat. We're leaving. We're leaving Sugar Plum."
This is the second song in the set. We're gonna beat the traffic. Yeah, Sugar Plum.
We're out of here. I didn't sign up for this shoe shine music.
Ay. But hey, this might be a good time to pause and thank our foundation level patrons. I'm sorry, our core level patrons. Oh my goodness, getting ahead of myself. Coming in at the $7.77 Keep It Warm Rat tier, we have Michael Vader. At the episode $6.66 tier, we have Steve Coldwell, Arthur Smith, and Anton Glaving. At the $6.65 Almost Evil tier, Mr. Kenny Wymore. At the $5.99 nice price tier, we have Fielding Fowler, Robert Smith, Peter from Illinois, Michael Bagford, and Carl Helberg. And at the $5 moneylender tier, John Convery, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Jesper Alman, Alexei the Perfect Stranger Slepikoff, James North, Mark Hodgetts, Will Porter, Zwapper the Electric Alchemist, Tim Southern Cross Johnson, and Percival Frequency. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much to all of you. So many to mention.
You guys are leaving Nate breathless over here.
No, we're recording. We're a lunchtime recording. I'm just not ready for this kind of discipline. I need
still digesting.
Still digesting my soup. My goodness.
I haven't even had lunch yet. Oh,
you haven't?
I haven't.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna be starving. We better burn through the rest of this episode real quick. Oh, and
Yeah,
then they did some other.
Let's go.
Some other versions.
Come on.
Played it a bunch more times. Goodbye. So again, we're talking about notable versions of the songs. So I think it would be, of course, mandatory to note this next one, if I can find it. The heck is it? Maybe I can't find it. I do have a.
It was really diabolical laugh. I can't find it.
So God damn it.
What's happening over there?
It's so many files. I thought
What is this, amateur hour? Let's go.
This is amateur hour. But we did have they played it, they performed it in Perth, Australia at their first gig back in 1984.
Ooh,
the same night that they jammed with George Harrison. They broke out this song in Perth. That would be November 27th, 1984. Their historic first night back as a band, brought back this song, which is great. We have a 1987 performance, and that would be featured on Nobody's Perfect, the live album. This was performed, and this is interesting because this was performed May 30th, 1987 in Phoenix, Arizona, and the 22nd of August in Oslo, Norway. So I think they stitched both of these versions together to give you this one on the album. And I don't know where the cuts are, or if you can even tell. I'm sure some of the fanatics out there would be able to tell us. But we can kind of hear where the late 80s Gillan vocals are. And it's really weird, like we talked about last week. Some of the reviews saying that Gillan's vocals, he's croaking, doesn't sound as good. I'm like, are you people out of your mind?
Well, I mean, you could tell that this is the 80s because his voice has matured.
Yeah, he's got a little bit more. Well, he's singing it a little differently too. He's singing it a little bit more like he's not quite as breathy as he was in the 70s on this part. And this is one of the first versions that I ever heard. So this one always, I know Nobody's Perfect gets so much shit from fans. People really don't like it, but this was when we were getting into Deep Purple, as we talked about. This was one that was in the record stores, and we picked it up early on, and I listened to this a bunch. Probably, I hate to say it, more than Made in Japan, because that's what was available. It's one of the things, you look at this, you see this dumb cover we've talked about before, and you're just like, oh, it's a Deep Purple. Like, I don't think I probably even knew it was a live album until I got home, and I was like, oh.
Damn it.
But you made that investment, you're going to listen to it. The screams sound great. He does a cool Steven Tyler thing.
Yeah, a little bit different there.
Yeah, he threw in some, definitely varied a little bit from the normal patterns there, and
Threw in a couple of yows.
And man, if this is somebody whose voice is starting to go, I wish my voice was starting to go, because he's just absolutely belting out those vocals.
Well, I mean, you know, he was like a man in his 40s at this point.
Oh, an old man. A geezer, a dinosaur, as they would call in some of these reviews.
Well, I mean,
this guy's got one foot in the grave.
Well, well, let's recall too is that like he obviously drinks, smokes, never stopped recording. Recorded Born Again, where I think he screamed more on that album than I've ever heard him scream on any album. So yeah, I think the guy deserves a pass if he can't do it exactly as he did like 15 years earlier.
And I don't think, I mean, I don't know. It sounds fantastic to me. I mean, yeah, maybe he's a little bit more gravel in there, but man. So this instrumental is starting, you know, we're mid to late 80s here. It's starting to change up a little.
Yeah, but I mean, really, it's like when you're hearing like an official live release, like, do you really want this one to sound just like Made in Japan?
Well, right, exactly. Like,
right. So I mean, it's like, may as well
for that.
Or the album. It's like, why even buy anything new if there's no variation in like the vocals, the music?
Ritchie's going off though. So they almost go into this like little blues jam here. It's definitely a different pattern. John's doing different things on the organ. Ritchie, I don't think, has any concept of what they're doing at all. He's just like, I'm just going to do what I always do. You guys can play whatever you want, but he's just going off, and it's great. See those little chord stabs that John's throwing in there? Anytime something like that happens, I'm like, are we in Oslo now? Like, when did they make the change? So there's their cue to bring it back here. That's a little different. Church organ sound. And then he goes back into it. And it almost makes you wonder, was like that, I'm not familiar enough with the live stuff from this time. Was that something they were doing frequently, or did like Ritchie step on what John Lord coming back in with this part? So did John Lord just figure out a way to get back there without getting stepped on, you know?
Maybe.
I mean, they're all such, you know, geniuses that they could figure that out in the moment. But yeah, a really cool version. I have a soft spot in my heart for that version because, like I said, it's it's probably the live version I've heard the most over the years, mostly from how much I listened to it as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so well, that's it. That came out in '88. Shortly after that, Gillan would be out of the band. So what's next after that? What do you think? Oh,
Would it be the 2002 one? I know they didn't do it that often.
Well, we've got the '90s to talk about first.
I didn't know they still did it.
They did it in the '90s, and Gillan would come back in the band. He leaves in '89. He comes back in '92. But what is this? Do my eyes deceive me, or do I see a version here from 1991? More information is needed. But yeah, we've got a 1991 version here. So this is a little different, but let's see if we can play it here. Very loud audience. Bootleg, live in Tel Aviv.
91. That would be JLT.
That's JLT.
Oh my God. Okay.
So they did something a little different. It's part of a medley, so it's just a short part, but let's take a listen.
Very
The audience pretty much
JLT.
takes over.
It's so JLT. I love it.
He's just letting the crowd do this part.
It's the craziest thing to let the crowd sing. I think it's hilarious.
Especially this
The
part.
crowd's like, "Roar." Ooh.
He's getting a little ahead of himself there.
No.
John-
No
John's-
JLT.
So they did this as part of a medley of Black Knight, where they busted into Long Live Rock and Roll and then Child in Time, and then go back into the song. So there you go. That's how they end it. Whoa!
Now that was kind of neat to hear.
So interesting.
Like, I feel like, you see, now that makes me think, I feel like that at least like when Ritchie was still in the band with Mark III, that he like, he could have had like, Coverdale and Hughes do that, because like, I thought, well, I mean, when JLT went, he went, "Ow!" It was like, no.
There was one part where it's just like, yeah, no, it's not happening.
Like, it's like, all right, no, you gotta, no, don't. But I mean, when he kind of like, when he did the raspy kind of like, oh, it's like you could still hit that note or those notes and make them dynamic, but instead of doing like, a high, I don't know, like E, or do the lower E or whatever the the note is. You know what I mean? Like,
He was
that's
somewhere in
why
the middle.
that's where I think that if they wanted to, they could rearrange it and still do it now.
Yes, yeah, and that's I wish, to me it's like Gillan's voice it seems to only be getting better. So it's like, I'm like, by my calculations, by the time he's like 85, they can bring this song back into the set.
But I mean, he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to do it that way. Like, I mean,
Right.
that whole part he could still do it. They would just have to put time into like working it out, figuring out how to do it, and not, taking the cheap way out and having the guitar do it.
Yeah.
Like actually have him sing it, but in a different register,
Yeah.
obviously, but it could still be to great effect. I think that they could do it.
They could. They could potentially do it. We'd have to see. But anyway, that was short lived. They brought that into their set. They did it about 10 times throughout the Slaves and Masters tour, along with like this long live rock and roll. So as as soon as Gillan left, they're throwing in rainbow stuff all over the place to bring Byrne back into the set. Like they're doing
Of
everything that
course.
they couldn't do when Gillan was there, which for my money, kind of makes Mark V interesting. Like it would be really cool to have been at one of those shows, because you'd hear such a varied amount of things that they were, as much as Slaves and Masters isn't one of my go-tos. I think that tour would be really cool, and there's some great live performances from that tour that we could get into one day. But anyway, it's short-lived.
When the cat's away, it's just like when Ritchie leaves. They're like, all right, when a blind man cries, let's do it.
It's the second he's like, Richie, did you break your thumb? I'm so sorry. Hey, Randy, California, you want to do, sure. They just busted out the second he leaves. I think the first show he was gone, like after when he left, they probably did it with Satriani. Like they rushed to it, but it's kind of funny. They always had that, somebody in the band vetoing things. But anyway, they get back together. Obviously, they go on another short-lived tour here. There's a great performance on Come Hell or High Water from Birmingham, NEC Arena, November 9th, 1993, where they perform it. It's a really good video and it's a good performance, but I think the one that we should focus on is the actual last performance of Mark II, the last time they ever played this before Ritchie left the band. And here it is. This is from Helsinki, November 17th, 1993. And they play it right about at this mark here. So let me cue it up. And here we go. So the sound quality is not quite as good as the Come Hell or High Water, but this is the final performance with Ritchie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Fading this out and fading the back.
I was going to say, what happened?
The song was written in 1916.
I love the crowd. It's like, whoa! Holy!
I love the guy. Whoa! He was like physically altered by the fact they were playing. Whoa!
Humana.
They're playing Child in Time. Hamina. Oh. Oh.
So not only is it the last time playing it with Ritchie, but I know it's the last time. So I can't remember at what point they found out. I got Jerry's book here. I should look through it. Because I know the story is like Ritchie tore up his passport or threw it and flushed it down the toilet or something, so he wouldn't be able to go on the rest of the tour. So at some point they had to know.
What a ridiculous person. He
Yeah,
seems to be
apparently-
singing it more in the 70s vein than when he was singing it in the 80s.
Yeah, he's like going back to it. Yeah, so he threw that back in. Yeah, so apparently this is a show that Ritchie almost refused to play. They had to
Ugh.
basically drag him onto stage, and he was just making a big, a California Jam style fuss about going on stage.
California Jam style fuss.
And again, we've got multiple episodes to talk about this tour. Gillan sounds great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, see, he didn't hit the next level. He didn't hit the next octave.
I think this is where you've got some keyboard support there, but it still sounds great.
Oh yeah.
So Ritchie knows this is the last show of his life and plays like what's regarded to be as one of his just plays his heart out, even though he's being a dick before the show. And just puts in this amazing performance. Probably just kind of like to just be like, well, you'll be missing me or whatever. So to me, even though the sound quality is not quite where the Come Hell or High Water show was, and you don't get that video aspect of it, it's still a really, really great performance. What a tempo increase there.
Yeah, right?
I wish there was a video of this. Playing is so good. There's so many good bootlegs from this era too, which is great. But again, a wildly different performance from the 87 version we heard. Throwing this middle section in here. So, there you have an amazing performance by Ritchie. Amazing farewell final performance from Ritchie. So we've got the end of the Mark II era. So then what's next? I don't think there's any. I don't know if he does it with. I know he's done it with Rainbow like recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's done it with like I think Ronnie Romero or something, but I don't know that he did it with. Maybe there's like a Rainbow version with Doogie White or something, but I've never heard it if there is. So yeah, so then we've got obviously the end of the Mark II era. Then we get a brief lineup change. Obviously, we go back to have Joe Satriani join the band for a brief time. He plays this song with them in Japan on December 2nd, 1993. On December 3rd, 1993, the show is recorded, and
Here's one that was written even earlier.
I select this one because it's a better sound quality. But now we're gonna hear just a few weeks later, like 2 weeks later, Joe Satriani playing it. But we're not gonna hear a wild difference in the opening. But let's see if we can skip ahead to some of the guitar to hear what Joe's gonna do a little differently.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You'd expect Satriani to just be all Satriani, but he really plays well for the songs. So here he is he started on the 2nd, so he had, I don't know when they officially lined up Satriani, but he didn't have much time to prepare for this.
Yeah. It sounds pretty Satriani to me.
Sounds Satriani here, yeah. He's not making his guitar whistle, though. There's a little tasty little bass groove that Roger's throwing in there. It's mostly like guitar and snare drum, though. People always say this, but man, I wish they'd release a proper live recording with Satriani. Great. Great sound quality. Close to the end of an era. He'd go bald pretty soon after this. I don't mean go bald, but he'd shave bald. Where many rock stars could not admit it and just go with it, Joe Satriani was like, screw it, I'm shaving my head.
What a guy.
So he still throws in that little Ritchie thing here. Pretty cool performance. Really worth checking out. That one's the December 3rd, 1993, Joe Hall in Osaka, Japan. Definitely worth checking out if you are into checking out any of the Satriani era stuff. And then we've just got a couple more left here. Joe Satriani would play this. The last time he played this with them would be July 6th, 1994. So he was, playing with them for about 7 months or so. Then we've got a great version that is in the Steve Morse era. And this one was Bombay Calling, which is interesting. You know, Deep Purple did this Bombay Calling live release, which is funny because Bombay Calling is the name of the song by A Beautiful Day that they ripped off to to make this song. So so here's the here's a cool video. And the last two are videos. So we get to actually see them in action. And this is let me find the exact spot where it starts up here. But this is, I'll put the link in the show notes. Bombay Calling. It starts at about the 57-minute mark, roughly. Here we go. So Lord's playing this solo. This is 1995, if I didn't say that already. They know how to get the crowd crazy. Just start play an organ solo and then just throw in the opening to Child in Time. Everyone goes nuts. This has been released a bunch of times. It's on like vinyl, it's on CD. There's the DVD, I think, of it. Throwing in a nice groove again.
Sweet child in time, you'll see the lines drawn between good and bad. See the blind man shooting at the world.
They were playing I think they're playing Mary Long in this tour, so that's why I'm a big fan of this one. I mean, not the only reason, but
If you've been bad, Lord, I bet you have. And you've not been healed by flying lead. You'd better close your eyes, bow your head, wait for the ricochet.
now I think they said something.
Beautiful.
He's pointing to the audience in this one that he was struggling a little vocally here. There was something with the
I love you. I love you.
like he's having trouble hitting the notes because of the climate or something.
Makes sense.
I think he gets a little help here. Man, they're going absolutely bananas. But here, I think there's Steve comes up with still rocking that. Oh, he's on the congas already, folks. He has wasted no time. He's not even waiting for the solos to start up. I think a really sleazy little groove going now with Morse. almost sounds like Mark III or Mark IV instrumentally. Well, we'll let Steve Morse fade out here because the final performance will be the one that we'll bookend the show with by playing its entirety. So they played this for the last time on April 30th, 2002 at, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Plenary Hall in Jakarta, Indonesia. As far as I can tell, and I might be wrong, I can't find any bootleg version of that show. And the last official recorded version of this song that I can find is from St. Patrick's Day, Iron Bagora, March 17th, 2002, St. Petersburg, Russia. Not very Irish, but it'd be great if it was in Dublin. But yes, they played the show there. Got a great video of it. And let's try to find it in that video. It's right around this part. Starts up. Oh no, did I not write down where it starts up? Well, this is going to be interesting.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I did write it. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. I was like, well, it's going to be a real crapshoot to just land on exactly the right spot here. So yeah, it's starting up around here. They play Child in Time.
Anyway, here's one you may know. It's a story of the old days. It was written about the times in the bad old days. It's for you, especially
The bad old days. It's like Gillan's in his big, loose, flowing white suit.
His flowing white suit.
So this is Don Airey's first full show with Deep Purple.
Oh.
He had played with them a bunch of times with John Lord on and off. And then this is his first show as being the only organ player. 20 years ago. Crazy. When they were merely in their mid to late 50s. Don Airey putting his own spin on it.
People digging it.
They performed this 17 times in 2002, and then that was it. It's been over 20 years since they performed it. I found this one as it's professionally recorded, obviously, from a VHS, but it may have been aired in Russia. Dreaded audience clap. Morse really kicks it into overdrive with that. The way it comes in, it's chugging guitar chords.
Oh. Dylan's still bringing it.
Yep. when you see him sing now, like you can see it in his face. He's giving everything he's got. Steve Morse, such a happy guy. Loving it.
I mean, Gillan's still doing it. He's just not hitting that next octave.
It's just that last one, yeah.
Which,
But
I mean,
but like you said,
I think
we were
that's
talking about earlier, pairing it up with the guitar makes it work. And it's like,
I mean, I think
wishing
it's
they-
reasonable to expect that he wouldn't hit it. Yeah, anybody except Glenn Hughes wouldn't be able to hit it these days.
the only living human that could hit it. It's like Gillan's, I don't know what he's doing. He's wigging out there in the congas for a second. And Steve Morse goes over. They just have a little chat. They're like, "Hey, we're on the bus. Can I sit in the seat behind the driver's seat this time?"
Gillan, what? Shotgun. Don't.
He said, "Oh man, I called it. I called it." And Morse going for a little. He's really looking like a muscle man, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. After this, they would only play the song 8 more times. That was it. And hey, and if you're listening and you have a bootleg of that Jakarta show, drop us a message. We'd love to hear it. Just doing putting like a spin on that little. Damn, guys.
Woo.
I don't think we played the ending on the Joe Satriani one, but they kind of ended it with like a new keyboard patch and then went into Anya after that. I can't remember how to name this one, but it was a very non-Child in Time sounding keyboard, like a very like electric piano sound.
Sweet child in time, we all see the lines drawn between universe and us. See the blind man
Looks like the same outfit he wore when he sang with Pavarotti.
Maybe he recycled it.
Probably did. I mean, this was his like. This was his floral vest of the early 2000s. He just wore it everywhere. I wonder if he had many floral vests or just the one that he recycled. I don't even like taking a drink of water. I'd be like, I need a stool with some water like a stand-up comedian. You just grab the mic off the mic stand with authority. So we go back to the kind of more traditional ending, it sounds like. It must have just been that transition, that annual transition on the Bombay calling. Pretty explosive rendition of Child in Time. The last one that we'll have on record that I'm aware of. So wow.
I took a quick look on Setlist FM to see if the show that I went to in '02 they played it.
Yep.
They did not.
Wah, wah.
I didn't think so, but I thought like
When was the show that you went to? What was the date?
it was I don't think it says.
I should say the date of when you went to the show. I'm going into 2002 here. I'll tell you.
Yep, summer 2002 tour.
Where'd you see him? Great Woods?
Yeah. We discussed this a while ago when we were talking about the shows I forgot I went to.
Yes, that's a whole episode right there. Athens, Greece. No, that's not where Great Woods is. Bristol, England. Plymouth, England. Glasgow, Scotland.
Oh, I think we're getting close.
Germany. No, we're getting further now.
Oh, there we go. It was June 26th.
Oh, you were just like a few months too late to have seen them play this.
Yep. Wah wah, as you said.
Yeah, it's too bad. But hey, it was June 26th. You said, isn't that E-Rock's birthday?
Can't remember.
Or is
How
that
would you remember
October
such a random
October
fact?
26th?
No, his is in October. Yeah.
Yeah, it's October 26th. Sorry. Yeah, so a
Jeez.
great, that would be the last one. Like I said, they played it in Jakarta. There's actually a couple reviews of the shows that they did in Jakarta with this one on the Highway Star, which are really interesting. And one of them is just kind of saying, hey, it's been 27 years since Deep Purple played in Jakarta, so come back more often next time. And I think part of that was because of the horrible experience they had in Indonesia in the Mark IV lineup. And I'm pretty sure John Lord refused to go back to Indonesia, so they had to wait till he was out of the band to play Indonesia again. But at that point, the only person that would have remembered that experience was Ian Paice, who I'm sure had some pretty bad memories as well of them, being accused of murder and screwed out of money and having the
Jeez.
tires on their plane slashed and one of their members of the band potentially murdered. It was just a very horrible experience. And we talked about way back probably in the Come Taste the Band episode. But yeah, that's it, man. That's Child in Time. Was that too much Child in Time? It's a lot of Child in Time.
Yeah.
It was too much.
No, it was just enough. Could there ever be too much Child in Time? Come on.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. It was a lot of Child in Time.
Yeah, this is going to be the Nate said the shorter episode. It's about as long as all the other ones.
It's a long song.
I
So
thought you were going to play
do,
like two, because your original concept was, yeah, we're just going to play the first one and the last one, and then I think you made a call. You're like, and all the ones in between.
well, I only played snippets of those.
Yeah, but still.
we did do the whole Ian Gillan band. Maybe we can edit it down. I don't know. But yeah, so maybe that was too much. Maybe we just did too much. But before we start, there's a couple things we need to do before we end. And first of all, we have to thank our core level patrons coming in at the $3.33. I'm sorry, foundation level. I'm getting these mixed up. At the $3.33 halfway to evil tier, we got Raf Calf. At the $3 nobody's perfect tier, Peter Gardeau, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Duncan Leask, Stuart McCord, Light of the Rat Bat Blue Light. And you know who else we have, John?
Oh.
You don't know.
Oh. Ivan Fielboo.
That's how you caught me off guard.
It's a great life in the dawn weekend.
And of course, his
Bruno
countrymen.
Simonson.
It's a great life in the dawn weekend.
We didn't plan this, folks.
Can you tell we didn't even rehearse that? It's so hard to tell.
I know it by heart now.
It was so flawless. And JJ Stenard coming in at the $1 maiden name tier. We have the Child in Ooze, Leaky Mausoleum, Stephen Somerville, the Concerto 1999 fanatic, Spike the Rock Cat, Hank the Tank, Private Eyes, Ashen Lionel, Spike's mom, Blackmore Tights, and John Maselli.
Tony Maselli.
Hey, does that mean you're going to slip into something more comfortable?
You're bilingual, too.
What can I say?
All right. Thank you to all of you for your generous support of the Deep Purple podcast. We appreciate it. Oh, okay. So if you listened to our if you've made it this far and you listened to our Battle Rages On first episode, in between the two parts, there was a little bonus episode because we got carried away discussing John's Airbnb fiasco
experience. Yeah.
So I've taken on I've heard word that you have some follow-up on your Airbnb experience.
Oh, I do. Which now, well, if this is referring to what I was telling you about earlier, this is something completely different. But I will say that at this point, I will have linked my review in the Discord, and maybe Nate will link it on social media. It's very lengthy.
Maybe it'll have to be it'll have
damning,
to be a patrons only exclusive.
Damning testimony against what had happened to me, the atrocities committed. But yeah, nothing happened except at least my honest review went up on Airbnb. So that's the That's what I have about that. But this is a different thing that I was telling you about, which we can either close out the show with it, or you can make it the stinger at the end.
All right, we'll figure it out.
But anyway, being the lazy ass that I am, I'm just like, I need garbage bags. I'm going to order them on Amazon instead of going down the street to the store and getting them like a normal person. So, I got the 160, trash bags. Like, it's just me. It's going to last me a year. So it's like,
Sure.
whatever. But, I get those points on my credit card where you can use like, for Amazon credit or whatever. So little things like that, I pick them up for free, and I don't need the trash bags right away. So anyway, they're the Amazon Basics trash bags. So I'm like, 1,000 reviews. I'm like, who is reviewing trash bags? I wonder.
I mean, how bad can they be? They either hold your trash or they don't.
Right. So the first one I went to was probably the best, or it was a question. They have the questions like, question answer, where
I love
people
those.
talk about them. And then there were just reviews, are they scented, this and that. So this is my favorite by far. Question: does it come with a guarantee?
How much do these garbage bags cost?
Answer: guarantee for what? That it holds trash?
How much do they cost?
Like $15.
Yeah, okay.
If they're not what you want, send them back. Like, use a bunch of them and send them back. Amazon
I mean,
gives you credit for
it comes with
everything.
the same guarantee anything on Amazon does. They'll take pretty much anything back for any reason. They don't really care.
The answerer goes on to say, all I can say is that yes, it will hold trash. I don't know what kind of guarantee you expect. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty rookie question, because it's just like, if you've lived on planet Earth and you order from Amazon, that like you can literally order anything. And if you're just like, you could use it and be like, screw this, and just send it back and they'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure there's a point at which you could abuse that and they would do something to your account, but
probably.
I'm sure they're pretty generous.
I haven't found it yet,
Me
but
either.
I also don't abuse it. I'll send things back if they are legitimately something I don't want, or if it's broken. But I'm just like, for trash bags, like, maybe take the $15 hit if they're not what you expect.
I mean, I think it's one of those things like, how bad could they be?
Right. I mean, I've got some from like the dollar store in the past that are just like paper thin, it's just like they won't hold a reasonable amount of like regular trash. I mean, I feel like, that would be the only reason.
It makes sense.
So, but anyway, there you go. Reviews from me.
I thought it was going to be an Airbnb thing, but okay,
No,
we'll do
no,
that one. That one will be in the patrons only Discord.
No, but no, a good reminder not to support that piece of shit that I got the Airbnb from.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, check out the bonus episode of a couple episodes back, and you can if you said I don't want to know about what John and Nate did for their summer vacation, that's fine. But if you want to know about a horrible Airbnb experience John had, then check it out. All right, John. Well, until then, we'll see you next week.
All right. See you then.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also leave us a review in Apple Podcasts to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.